There we go. Good sized flounder there. Nice. Right along the wind protected shoreline. Oh.
Yeah, heartbreaking. Hey guys, it's Wyatt from Salt Strong here today to give you some tips on how you can catch more flounder. And no, I'm not talking about the best lures, retrieves, or even the best spots to go to. I've already made videos on those things. If you'd like to check them out, I've got them in the description below. But today I'm going to be solely focused on how to properly land and handle these fish because they're extremely slippery. From all the anglers I've talked to, they are the fish that gets away the most, and I completely agree with that. I've lost them jumping out of the net. They've jumped out of the boat while I've had them in my hands. They do crazy head shakes that throw hooks all the time. They're a very difficult fish to land. Hooking them isn't terribly hard. If you've seen my videos below about getting them in the boat is a completely different story. So today I want to give you guys a couple tips that'll help you land more flounder. So let's go ahead and dive in. So if there's anything you guys take away from this video, I want it to be this first tip, and that's getting a proper hook set with flounder, because regardless of whatever else happens down the line, whether that's when you're fighting the fish or netting the fish, as we're going to talk about here shortly, having a proper connection and a good solid connection with that fish's mouth when it's doing head shakes or backflips out of the water, it's going to ensure that fish has a tough time throwing the hook, and you're really just going to increase your chances of landing that fish if you have a better hook set. Now, the first thing I want to address with hook sets is when to actually set the hook, because there's an old myth out there that I'm about to debunk, that you need to wait a long time before you set the hook with flounder. Every flounder that I catch, the first thing I do is make sure I have a taut line immediately and I set the hook as fast as I can. Those fish will spit out a bait, and if you're waiting a long time, sometimes they're starting to spit it out, and you'll hook them and you don't really have a good hook set. So a lot of people that wait typically don't get a good hook set with flounder. The first thing I like to do, as you're seeing in this video, is reel down on that line, make sure I've got some tightness in my line, make sure that there's pressure there, and then set the hook as hard as I can. And as you guys saw in this live video, it really is less than a second after the strike that I'm setting that hook. I'm not waiting the 5, 6, 7 seconds that some old timers will tell you need to wait with flounder. It's just flat out not true. In touching on line tension, you need to make sure that there's no slack in your line when you go to set that hook. If there's slack in your line, that hook point isn't going to drive itself very deep, and you're going to have a weak hook set on that fish. So what you need to do when you feel a bite is you need to quickly reel down, take all the slack out of that line, and pull back just a little bit to feel the pressure of that fish. If you saw in that video, that's exactly what I did. As I felt that strike, reeled down a little just to take the tautness out of my line, and I set the hook and I drove that hook point home. The tighter you can get that line, and as soon as you feel the pressure of that fish when you start to pull back, that's when you need to set the hook, because that's going to drive that hook point home and create a strong and solid connection that's really going to help you land that fish regardless of what it does later on in the fight. So the next tip I have for you guys is don't pull a flounder's head out of the water until you are just about to net him. If you're fighting him and he's a little bit further away from your kayak or your boat, don't make him breach the surface of the water, because the moment that he does, he's going to start shaking his head. And you've probably seen this with trout as well. You want to make sure that you keep that fish under the surface of the water, because even if it shakes its head, the drag from the water is going to create less pressure against that fish's mouth where you have that hook point, and it's not going to allow as large of a hole to tear when it shakes its head. Now, if you get above the surface where there's no drag and there's nothing stopping that weight from swinging around in that fish's mouth and tearing a larger hole, there's a much higher chance that that hook point is going to slip out. So if you can, try to avoid letting that fish come up to the surface of the water where it's going to shake its head and have no resistance that's going to really tear that hole in its mouth and make it harder for you to not let that fish throw that hook. So try to make sure that until you get it to the boat, its head does not come above the surface. If you start pulling a flounder up and it's getting kind of close, give it some slack. Its instinct is to swim back down, and it's not really going to shake its head. It's unlikely that's going to happen, but the more that it shakes its head, the more likely it is to throw that hook. So that's something you want to keep in mind as you're fighting these fish. So now it's time to net the fish. You're getting it up to your kayak or to your boat, and what you want to do is, instead of leading it into the net, you want to get it close to your kayak, have that net to the side. Don't let him see it, because he will freak out and he'll start swimming away. That's probably the hardest thing with flounder, is getting him to get to the net and not freak out. As you can see in this video, they are very net shy and they will constantly swim away when that net is near them. But once you get it up to the boat, try to keep that net out of its sight, and as soon as you get it close enough, scoop up under it. Do not try to lead it into the net, try to scoop up under it, because what's going to happen is it's going to dive down. If you try to lead it into a net, it's going to shoot right under your net, and you're just really not going to land it. Their instinct is to go down to the bottom, so try to get that net under them, that way that when they shoot down, as you guys are seeing here, you have an easy landing with that flounder. So from personal experience, I can tell you guys, it is not over. You still need to keep your guard up with these flounder, because even if you have them in the boat in your hands, they are still great at floundering away. There's a lot of merit to that statement. So you need to make sure you handle them properly. And after losing a lot of fish that have slipped out of my hands, I found the best way to hold them is to grab them by the tail and the pocket that is by the side of their pectoral fin. There's a little pocket where their gill plate meets their fin that you can slip your thumb into, and you can grab them really easily like that. Some anglers will hold them on the gill plate. Here in North Carolina, it is about to be only release again for flounder, so we want to make sure we don't cause any damage to those fish, so I don't even risk putting my fingers up under their gills, and I will just hold them like that. And I've really found that's the best way to grab flounder. So there you guys have it, everything from your hook set to how you're going to handle the fish. These tips will really help you not lose flounder, whether it's in or outside of your boat. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you would like to learn a little bit more about how to become a better inshore angler, become more successful with flounder, I highly recommend you join us in the Salt Strong Insider community. The videos I linked below are just a small taste of the information that we have for you guys. We in fact go out every single week and we show you guys exactly where we're fishing, as well as the current trends, the best baits, the best retrievals, everything that goes into that, as well as getting you up to 20% off on the top gear and items from the tackle industry. So I hope you guys choose to join us in the Insider community, and thanks again for watching.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live salt strong and wear the line today.